Hello, my name is David Willis. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will be reviewing three lenses. These lenses are virtually the same lens. These two lenses are Sears lenses. I don't know if you can see that in the overhead camera, but one of them says multi-coated right there, and the other says MC. The other lens looks almost identical, but it says the brand, move that lens out of the way, is Star-D, and it also says MC. So it looks a lot like the Sears lens. Even side by side, they look the same. If I move these like this, set these to the same, put them side by side, they look virtually identical. The only real difference is this one says MD, and that's the Star-D lens, is an MD mount. And the numbers that are green here are orange on the Sears lenses. But other than that, these two lenses seem to be about the same. One other difference is that the Star-D one, or the Sears one, has a lens hood built in. The Star-D one doesn't have that, but I'm not sure if that's because I bought this lens used and maybe the lens hood broke off, was removed by a previous owner. I don't know. So I'm guessing it actually came with a lens hood. The Sears lenses are both PK mount lenses, Pentax K mount. And the Star-D lens is a Minolta MD mount, which one way to tell the PK mount has three little wings on the flanges that are solid. The Minolta lens has two that are solid and one that has a little notch. I don't know if you can see that in the overhead camera, but there's a little notch there. You can get adapters for these. Here's the PK adapter that, if I can find the dot, there's a dot there and a dot there. Line the dots up, and now I have this adapted so it will mount to my Sony A7 II, so I can use it on my mirrorless camera. I forgot to bring out the MD adapter, but I have an MD adapter for this lens. There's a fourth lens that I thought I was going to review with these because I thought it was also the same. This is another Star-D. This is a Star-D Gold, and as you can see, it's a little bit bigger, even though all three of these are, four of these are 135 millimeter lenses. But this one is a bit bigger and has a macro setting. So I'm going to review that in a later video. According to camerawiki.org, Sears is the most famous mail order house in the world. Its Chicago building, the Sears Tower, was the highest building in the world for a while. Of course, that building is now called the Willis Tower. No relation. That's Willis with one S, and my name has two S's. Long story. I might explain it sometime. In the United States, it was the greatest mail order and retail vendor of consumer goods. That's according to this article. It was founded by Richard W. Sears in 1886, starting as a reseller of watches in North Redwood, Minnesota. In 1887, Sears moved to Chicago and employed Alva C. Roebuck as a watch and tool maker. In 1893, Roebuck became partner in the company, which was then renamed Sears Roebuck. Like other great mail order houses, Sears had a house brand for cameras, the Tower, which were all OEM products made by different renowned camera makers of several countries. Some cameras were sold branded as Sears, and a few under their original manufacturers. Sears lenses for SLRs, according to this article, were all made by Ricoh. However, when it came to Star-D, Google failed me. I found lots of things about astrophotography, taking pictures of stars. I found information about star filters. And I found that it's also an acronym for Sequenced Treatment Alternatives to Relieve Depression. I did find a few for sale on eBay for about $20 or $30. According to allphotolenses.com, it looks like the Star-D lenses were manufactured by Samyang, which is also a South Korean company. But that's the only evidence that I have that they were made by Samyang, just a bullet point on a website that says manufactured by Samyang, Korea. But all three of these lenses say on the backs of them, lens made in Korea, and these two have a model number and say lens made in Korea. And in fact, the model number on the two Sears ones is identical, 73730. So it says that they're the same, even though they're labeled slightly different on the front. One reviewer on allphotolenses.com described the Sears one that says multi-coated, right there, as, quote, a cult lens known for its aura in macro settings at f2.8 under non-direct light due to a defect in one glass element. But I wasn't able to find any more information on this. He did provide a link to a Flickr album by a guy named Mike K, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. It's an interesting effect that seems to be more pronounced if the shot is just slightly out of focus. These lenses have all pretty much the same focus and aperture controls. Of course, they're all manual focus lenses. The aperture goes from f2.8 to f22 in half-stop clicky increments, and that's all of them are the same on that. And it has 6 blades, which I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but there's 6 blades in there. The minimum focusing distance is 1.5 meters, according to the scale on the lens itself. The focus ring goes about 200 degrees from one extreme to the other, which is less than 2/3 of the entire rotation. That's less than the previous lenses that I've reviewed, and it makes it a bit harder to focus because you have less distance to move to get the same change between depths of a focus plane. Still, it's better than some of the other lenses that I plan to review in some future videos. They all weigh about the same. They're about 13 to 14 ounces. And the front of the lens has a thread for a 52 millimeter filter. As I was preparing to shoot this video, I realized I forgot to take the focus tests on these lenses like I did in previous videos. But that's okay because I'll shoot those after I get done shooting this video and then do a voiceover on the description of them. So here's the focus chart that I've used in previous videos. This time though, I have it mounted to a portable window that I keep in my studio. This is a rolling clothing rack with a piece of plexiglass hanging from it and a set of mini blinds. I've used this a few times, having a model stand in front of the window and spray water on the window and then shoot through it. Makes it look like she's looking out a window in the rain, or have a model looking through the blinds with binoculars like they're spying on somebody. Get cool effects of the shadows from the blinds. I would do a video on this, but it would just be copying one of Gavin Hoey's videos, so go and watch his. Here's the focus chart of the Sears lens with the MC designation on it. Zoomed into the center of the chart, we see some color fringing. I don't know what you call this. It's not really... Chromatic aberration is usually like a purple-green shadow in the white. But this is different. The black areas have a blue fringe that's so bad the black text is completely blue. The fringing in the white is yellow, which is different. The focus is nice and sharp, though. Here's the Sears multi-coated lens, the same f-stop of f2.8. The color fringing is slightly better. The yellow cast is almost eliminated. The text is still blue, though, and the focus is still sharp. The Star-D lens at f2.8 is pretty much identical to the Sears multi-coated one. Here's a side-by-side view of the Sears MC and the Sears multi-coated lenses to show the difference between those two. And then here's a side-by-side view of the Sears multi-coated and the Star-D, showing how similar they are. Now let's go to the upper left-hand corner of the chart. The Sears MC lens is about the same as the center. Some of the other lenses I've tested had worse chromatic aberration in the corners, but this one isn't worse. It's about the same as the center, which is pretty good. And the focus is still very good for the corners. The Sears multi-coated lens, on the other hand, the corners have a bit of what I would expect for chromatic aberration. It's a purple-green instead of that blue that we're getting in the middle. And the focus is still sharp. And again, the Star-D lens is identical to the Sears multi-coated one. Now let's look at f8. All three lenses perform about the same in the center and in the upper left-hand corner. The Sears MC is excellent. There's hardly any chromatic aberration and focus is sharp. Sears multi-coated and Star-D still have chromatic aberration. Thank you, future me. Now on to the distortion tests. Here's the chart for the Sears lens that says multi-coated. As you can see, there's just a tiny bit of barrel distortion and some chromatic aberration as you get closer to the edges. Here's the chart for the Sears lens that says MC on it. As you can see, it's pretty spot on for distortion, and the chromatic aberration is a lot less noticeable. This leads me to believe that the MC variation is newer and corrected mistakes of the previous lens. But that's just my theory, and I don't have any other evidence to back it up. It could be that the MC lens was first and the multi-coated lens had some corners cut to reduce the cost. I don't know. Here's the Star-D chart, and it's pretty much identical to the Sears lens that says multi-coated. Here are a few photos taken at a public garden near my house, and I'll let those play as I summarize my findings here. So, in conclusion, the Sears lens that says multi-coated seems to be better than the one that says MC. The Star-D lens seems to be the same lens as the multi-coated lens, just with a different name on it. As for who made these lenses, my initial research showed that the Sears lenses were made by Ricoh. But while doing some more research while editing this, I found information that showed that the Sears lenses were actually made by Samyang. So both the Sears and the Star-D lenses could be Samyang lenses, which would make sense. They do seem to be the same. These lenses are surprisingly good, given that they're branded as Sears lenses. I wouldn't expect that from a Sears name. It seemed like it would be kind of a lower budget lens, but they were manufactured by Samyang, possibly, so maybe they are pretty good lenses. 135 millimeters is a nice focal length for portrait photography. The longer focal length gives a nice compression on the background, and it makes things in the background seem closer to your subject, so that might be a good reason to use a lens of this focal length. If you're into this kind of photography, of using old vintage lenses, this one might be worth picking up, if you can find the multi-coated version anyway. I found one on eBay just today for $15, with $11 shipping, so the shipping was almost as much as the lens. But still a pretty good deal. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. If you have any information on particularly the Star-D lens, who made it, what years it was made, that kind of thing, I would be interested if you would leave comments in the comment section below. Well, if you have comments about the Sears lenses too, go ahead and leave those comments. If you like this video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notification of future videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.